Welcome to Inside the Numbers, the nation's longest running sports betting talk show on the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. Now let's turn it over to Danny B.
Hey, my friends, welcome to episode 1 of Inside the Numbers with me, Danny B. Some of you might have caught our preview on Thursday, opening day. I told you we're going to have some great guests throughout the year. I have a fantastic guest who I met a little over 3 years ago when he was on Carton and Friends, Corey Parson. A lot of you friends on Twitter, Facebook, you're very familiar with his work, does an amazing job. He'll join me in just a second. Opening day started off a little fuzzy with a rainout, Boston Yankees, and then the following day, extra innings. We had a brawl in Washington. Mets take 3 out of 4 from the Nationals. Yanks 2 out of 3 from Boston. Dodgers 2-2 at the Rockies. Cincinnati, I told you to watch those Reds. 2-2 at Atlanta. Only undefeated team that I'm aware of right now is Tampa Bay, 3-0, but they beat up on Baltimore. Chicago took 2 out of 3 from Milwaukee. Yeah, what a way to start. The extra inning game on Friday after the rain delay. Boston comes back Sunday night. The Mets, the Beeman, retaliation, the grand slam by Peter. So it was a fun weekend. I hope everybody did well. Today we got some nice matchups. Before I get to my guests, you got the Mets and Phillies both coming off of a loss. Toronto and the Yankees. Toronto, I tell you, I like what I see in them. Yankees, you know what? Never sleep on the Yankees. Corey's going to talk some NBA with us in just a second, the play-ins, and I'm not a big fan. Nick will be jumping on later. Again, Nick from Empty the Bench Podcast Network. You're familiar with his work. If not, pay attention. Again, this is a new show only to the network, but Inside the Numbers is the nation's longest running sports betting talk show. Started back in the 90s. My first show was back in 94, and it seems like yesterday. So I know Corey's in a little bit of a hurry here. And again, I'm not in New York City. I am wearing a Yankee hat. I am a Met fan. And I think Corey, who's going to jump on right now with us, is a Yankee fan. But today he's going to basically dive into the NBA playoffs. We're both wearing Yankee hats. The mayor of Harlem is now living in South Carolina, still wearing Yankee colors, which I like. I respect that. But he is no longer called the mayor of South Carolina. But the name will always stay. The mayor of Harlem grew up in the city. And again, Corey, it's good to have you. I know you got about 20 minutes. You got a lot of stuff going on. NBA tips tomorrow, the play-in game. So let's talk about you first. Corey, how are you making the adjustment? It's about a year ago in May. You'll make it 1 year. Big change in your life. I know business is good. You're happy down there. So let's get into the meat and potatoes. How's life down south?
Everything's going good, Danny. Definitely glad to see you. Me talking to you again, and much love to your wife and your family. The whole crew that we met up there was doing that good work around the time when FAFSA was repealed, and we were able to talk about sports betting and bring it up on a legal atmosphere. So definitely shout out to your crew. Had a chance to meet them. Our connection to the day October 11th. So definitely.
That's right. We share this. My goodness, how can I forget our birthday? We share. Only I got a little time on you, my friend. Just a wee bit. I'm approaching 60. You guys can do the math on your own. Gentlemen don't like to tell either, not just the ladies. But please continue.
Yeah, so no, got down here about a year ago. Obviously, you know what I mean. The way COVID tore apart the city, and it kind of ruined things. Always had ties to this area. Went to college down here and stuff like that. So saw an opportunity to come down here and live a little easier. You know what I'm saying, Danny B? When you're in that city,
I do.
Are ripping and running and ripping and running and ripping and running. And I think I've done my time on that. I think I've mastered the city, did well there. And now it's time to come on and put my feet up and bring it home, as they say. You know what I'm saying, Danny? So that's what's up.
I dig that. Same here. I left right before the pandemic in January of 2020. We got here. The 77 WABC was making some changes, different direction as I thought they were going. So we said, let's get on out of here just in time. Pandemic hits. We're loving where we're at. We're right by the Poconos, Corey, 20 minutes out. I got creeks, Delaware River. I got Unibet here. I got 3 different options, a rock throw away. So we're happy. Kids are happy. My older boy's missing the city life. He just got used to walking about the subways and all that, but I'd rather have him here. So
that I agree with you on that. I'm down here in South Carolina. Legislation has been slow. Looks like they're going to start to get on board. Probably take about 3 or 4 years or so. Well, maybe 2 or 3 years or so. Hopefully closer to 2. So right now I'm still offshore. You know what I'm saying? Which I'm not a big fan of being offshore, but it does have its advantages. I know what I've been doing, Danny. I've been using the Bitcoin to do a lot of my wagering with. So happy to get on that. Seems like a little bit safer when you do that when you're offshore.
You know what? I was discussing that in my preview show, Bitcoin, when it came into play. And it all started back in the day when they started putting the handcuffs on transmitting money from the States to overseas with the Unlawful Internet Act law passed in 2006. People like, yeah, I got to get a Bitcoin. My net teller's frozen. I'm handcuffed. I'm like, what is a Bitcoin? And I'm not engaged in that. And there are perks in overseas. I mean, some of the, as long as you're with, like anything else, in good hands, and they come a dime a dozen. So you got to do your due diligence. It does work, but I know you were familiar with the apps. But even at the time when you were in the city, you had to come over to Jersey to use the sports apps, right?
Yeah, I had to come over to Jersey. I left New York before New York. We both left New York. It's funny, Danny. We were looking forward to the day when New York was legal, and both of us was going from New York before New York got legal. So it looks like we chose ourselves over New York being legal. But the next time I come up there, I do plan on taking advantage of some of those welcome offers and stuff like that, and get some of that free money they're giving away up there. So I'm looking forward to that. We live in a world now, Danny, where New York is putting up higher sports betting handles in Vegas and New Jersey, and in the first month almost combined.
Right. No big things are happening in Jersey right out the jump. Back in 2018, I think they outdid Vegas, or were very close, just with 1 year under their belt. I know David Purdom. Everybody's familiar with David's work from ESPN. He's big on that, and he's always a good follow on Twitter. Always up to speed on the overseas, the current casinos, and there's so many of them. I see you're doing different shows, Corey. Let's talk about you, the show that you like. Talk about you these days. Like, what are you doing for a living?
Well, right now we are running the show over there, sports betting senior content creator at NBC Sports Edge. Finally got a chance to get down with the mainstream media in the full-time role. Been treating good over there. Hired a good staff, brought in some real good people, analytics, and watching the bets and stuff like that. So proud of the team we got over there, and putting together a special program, and got one coming up later on this weekend to get ready for the NBA playoffs. So also we're going to be diving into some USFL. Well, Danny, you got to keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? But what drives the ship in this business? It is the NFL and college football. Absolutely. But right now, as we're in the off season, definitely got some things coming up, and we are doing some good work over NBC Sports Edge.
The only good thing with the USFL, you have less research. There's only 8 teams that you have to dig into to start.
Yep.
I think the first game is Birmingham against the Generals, right?
Yeah, I think they brought back the Jersey Generals, so that should be coming up this weekend.
First game I saw, the first USFL game, well, anyway, I'm pretty sure it was the Generals playing the Express. Steve Young, Herschel Walker went nuts in the Coliseum. I sat up in the nosebleeds. Generals took care of business with Brian Sipe before Doug Flutie got there. So that was a good league. One of our local friends here, Mike Lush, he won a couple of rings with the Stars under Jim Mora. Good league. You saw a lot of stars come out of it. Maybe this will do the same. There's a lot of great talent that never gets the chance.
I think it's a different era right now. So much of the big-time football, it goes to the NFL. I think back then, the USFL had the money to kind of compete, but nobody really has it. So really you're seeing retreads, guys that was the back of the bench or had a run in college. But it's Danny, we've seen things try to go against the NFL or create different football leagues outside of like the SEC, the NCAA. Nothing really can compete. And I kind of have a feeling that's going to be the same thing this time around as well.
Well, it gives somebody something to bet on. It's something else to bet on, and during the pandemic, everybody was missing. They would have appreciated anything. They were betting on MMA, though, right? Or UCF.
MMA did well.
UFC, rather.
MMA, Korean baseball, whatever they can. Even the sim games with Madden and stuff like that. I was never going to put no money on the Madden game, though, Danny.
Horse racing. Next thing you know, handicappers were like, they knew a guy at the racetrack. Hey, I know a guy that knows a horse. Like they had back in the day, back in Yonkers and all those races. touting actually started with the horses. If you want to go back, there's always been a guy at the track. I got a tip for you. Even Adrian Costello used to make fun of that back in the day, straight from the horse's mouth. But anyway, tomorrow night, tip off. How do you feel about the play-in system? Nick will join us in a second. He's an NBA guy as well. Obviously, that's not my strength. Baseball, NFL, some college, of course. How do you feel about it? Number 8 playing number 7 to start Tuesday night. Are you a fan of this? And
I think. I give Silver credit. He's added some different wrinkles and stuff like that, and I think this gives a chance to make the completion of the regular season a little bit more fun. You get a chance to see what some of these teams that are up and coming younger teams, or maybe some of these veteran teams on the downslide, what they can do. Hopefully, they can get in there and make a run. I think obviously it's a big television play. You know what that is right there. So you get a couple nights of big time television dollars, advertisement money to come in. They're advertising the hell out of it. So you get 3 nights this week with kind of extra basketball. When you look, so I like the system. I like the tournament. I think it's something that the NBA has done well. I think next we're going to see an in-season tournament in the NBA. So I think it's going to be interesting how they put that together.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been a fan of the play-in tournament. Remember last year, the play-in tournament gave us a great game between the Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors that came down to the wire. Probably one of the best basketball games of the year last year. So hopefully we have that same thing this year. Don't have the star power in the play-in tournament this year that we did last year with Steph and LeBron there, but I still think it's going to be some good ball.
Yeah, a lot of people are disappointed in LeBron's last couple of games, especially when they had a chance. He chose not to play, but that's another story. The fact of the matter is Lakers ain't there. Clippers are there. One of the LA teams made it. Tomorrow night, you got Cleveland and the Nets. You got the Clippers in Minnesota. Any thoughts on how that's going to go down Tuesday? And if you want to, whatever out of the 4 games between Tuesday and Wednesday, is any of the games sticking out? You got the numbers out. Anything you jump in and lock in on?
Yeah, I already bet the Nets at -8. That number's going up to 8.5. What I do remember about these games last year is that home favorite, was blowout victories last year in the play-in tournament. We saw 3 blowout wins by a home team. I think that could be the case at least with this first game right here, where I think we could see the clip. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Cavaliers did a great job this year, the way they put that team together to get themselves in position. But now with Evan Mobley hurt, Jared Allen banged up, going up against a Brooklyn Net team that Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, they get to play that game.
I like that one. Again,
I'm gonna lay that number right there. I got that 8. It's already up to 8.5, so I feel good about it.
You got in early then. That's good. Because come tomorrow, could climb up to 9.5, 9, wherever. So if you're lock in before it moves. Catch the advantageous line, as they like to say. All right. So again, Friday. I know you might not. Maybe it'd be great to hear how you like this weekend's games. I mean, the numbers are out, but it's a little early to start betting Saturday and Sunday, no?
No, what I really spent some time this morning, last night, once we got set and saw what the matchups would be, was to take a look at the futures market. And I've already placed a couple futures. As a matter of fact, I got a banger. I got 30-1 shot on the Toronto Raptors to win the Eastern Conference. I think they get past their first round series versus the 76ers. And I think they can compete with a team like the Miami Heat. So, listen, are they going to win the East? Probably not. But if I can get them to the Eastern Conference Finals, I got a nice piece to hedge against. I think the Dallas Mavericks, we see what this injury with Luka Doncic is going to give you a nice hedge piece too as well. I like Dallas to get rid of the Utah Jazz. Also, the Denver Nuggets going up against the Golden State Warriors, took them at plus 185 to win that series straight up. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities to hit some plus money wages in this first round, Danny.
Well, that's how the pros think, and that's why we have you on. You think outside of the box. The average guy that, does this they ain't locking in future bets in most cases because they're worried. What happens if somebody gets hurt? Well, that's why you hedge it.
Well, that's a part of it. Exactly. And that's why I'm hedging, because you say, well, okay, one of my guys can get hurt, but we seen Chris Paul consistently play through postseasons? No. You know what I'm saying? So You definitely want that action with somebody other than the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks.
What a great year they had. I followed them a little bit this year. Great run, 64 wins, right? What they finished with, 64 or something?
Definitely from game 1 to game 82, the best team in the league. They were dominant this season. I mean, they had winning streaks of 18 games. They had a 15-game winning streak, a 12-game winning streak, a 10-game winning streak. So, yeah, hands down, best team during the regular season. But Danny, just because you're the best team in the regular season does not mean that you're going to be the best team when the season ends. So there you go, right there.
Well, we've seen that
like a rematch of last year's finals.
We saw that with Gonzaga too during March Madness, right? Best team doesn't always finish first, and that's the beauty of this. That's why a lot of times I lean on the dogs in March Madness. You stick with the dogs, you're consistent with them. Same with baseball. I like to bet. I know you're not prepared much with baseball. You need a couple of weeks to get your swings in, as we say.
No doubt.
Yeah, but I know you're a Yankee fan, and I'm sure you can elaborate a little bit on the Yankees.
I'm not happy, to be honest with you. I thought we'd see more action in the offseason, but it made the team a little bit stronger. I hate to be that Yankee fan, that crash, obnoxious Yankee fan that looks back to the days of the original Boston, George Steinbrenner, and obviously Yankee fans, coming up in the 90s and the early 2000s have a lot to celebrate. But, it's been since 2009 since the Yankees have made that deep run. People will say, well, the Astros stole one. Well, the Astros are still playing good ball and they're going back, while the Yankees are still continuing to struggle trying to figure this thing out. So not optimistic about the Yankees this year, but do think, they'll be in the mix. I have to be honest with you, though. I think the New York Mets are going to have a strong season this year, and I can see them possibly winning the NL pennant.
Well, Nick, the producer here, also part of Empty the Bench podcast network, of course. He's not a big Met fan from what I can tell. I'm sure he can dispute that. I see good things with the Mets, but the Mets are the Mets, You're
right. The Mets are the Mets.
The Mets are the Mets. And I'm, been watching now since 69. I think that's when as a kid, they won the World Series. Then they lost to Oakland in 73. They won in 86. I've seen them lose to the Yankees, and rightfully so back then. That's when the Yankees was the powerhouse. They lost to the Royals, 4 games to 1. So they are well overdue. They have the tools. Can they stay healthy? Will Max be able to fill in? Because DeGrom probably going to get hurt again. If he comes back, he's shown these.
Yeah.
He's going to get hurt. He's good when he's good, when he's playing. Nobody better when he's healthy. But
excellent.
And again, you mentioned Houston. They're always competitive, regardless of all the drama, this and that. They took 3 out of 4 at the Angels. Angels are playing. That's a little lean on the Angels tonight, a little bit higher than I like at minus 140 playing Miami. I talked about Miami last week, too. They're probably going to go over their win total. I gave out a couple of preview show. Who else? The Reds, I expected some good things. They split in Atlanta. Dodgers, I think they're going to win, but I don't think they're going to win 98 and a half games.
That's a big number. That's a big number, but they got the squad that can do it.
Oh, they do.
When you're in the win total market, Danny, are you playing the home market or you just pick out a couple you like?
I talked about this. I focus on 10 to 12 teams and I narrow everything down. Obviously, there's other clubs, but I'm good at certain teams. Mets, Boston, I had mentioned that, Cubbies, Phillies a lot, teams that I've been following for many years. So I kind of focused on certain teams. And every once in a while, I'll pick a team out of the blue, like the Rangers, that you don't see much action on. Or if I see an advantageous number, say a good team at home, plus 110 on a Sunday after they lost Friday and Saturday, take a shot at stuff like that. But normally I'm focusing on New York teams, Boston teams, East Coast teams, Midwest a little bit. Brewers, they lost 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. Cubs, they raced that team, and I still think they're going to do okay, believe it or not. But again, it's a long season. Again, tonight, it's early. There's lineups ain't even out for a lot of these games. You should see some runs in the Bronx, Toronto coming into town. But again, it's a long season. I like to let a week or 2 go past, like you, Corey, before I start releasing them.
Well, I learned this from Craig. You have every team is going to win 60, every team is going to lose 60. So what are you going to do with the next, with the next bunch right there, that 40 right there, that 40 or so that's remaining? What are you going to do with those 40 or so games? How are you going to interact with those games? How it really breaks down, and a lot of that comes down to injuries, particularly injuries on your pitching staff.
Absolutely. I'm not really a statistical guy like Nick and yourself. I know my things. I know a lot of people, which is very important in this business. But baseball, I've always had a good feel. I tag myself. I dub myself Danny Baseball in honor of Donnie Baseball. Big fan of Mattingly. I think everybody is.
Growing up.
One of the better hitters. We talked about great hitters last in the preview show Thursday, and We ran through some of them. Rod Carew. I left out the great Tony Gwynn, and I have to bring him up because he was the man, consistent all of his career with the Padres and gentlemen on and off the field. So
let me ask you this, Danny. Back when you were coming up, for everybody in my era, like who did you pat on your batting stance after? For me, it was Don Mattingly and Ken Griffey Jr. You know what I'm saying? The kid, obviously. Back when you were coming up, who did you pat in your batting stance after?
I followed Rod Carew a lot. We wanted to be fancy.
Rod Carew.
Yes, he had the thing going. He'd do the wrist. He lower it. He was one of the favorites to follow. And then I had Joe Morgan. We did the Joe Morgan thing a little bit just to mess around the chicken thing. Joe Morgan did that. Bobby Tolan always he played with the Reds when they were winning back in the day. He'd go way up here with his bat, swinging around. Yeah. So we used to mimic batting styles a lot. We played baseball. We didn't have games. We were out playing ball. So yeah, I would, I was a Dave King. Willie Mays was always my favorite, but his stance was pretty. Bill Matlock was a great hitter with the Cubs back in the day. They called him Mad Dog, I think. He was so many great athletes. Baseball's changed. They lost their drive. A lot of these players don't hustle. They don't give it 100%.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that. I have a problem with any athlete not giving 100%. Again, we spell team there's no I in team. And I think a lot of these players are worried about home runs versus we talked about not slapping down the third baseline in the preview show, how they'll try to pull it instead. You got that big go the other way when you need to. That's what hitters do.
No doubt, Danny. Everything in baseball now is about launch angles, and launch angles play a big part of how they're playing the game right now. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these dudes, they either hit a home run or strike out.
And I'm not a fan of that. I love contact hitters that also had the pop. When the ball's there, it's meant to be. It's meant to be.
Yep.
A lot of your home runs or missed home runs were on overswings, trying to go. When these pitchers are throwing 98, 100 miles an hour in some cases, you just need a swing. The way they make the bats have more boom in it now. No reason to cork it or put a ball in it. What they do, cork it back in the day, and it was something else. There's something else they got away with. And, we talked about baseball faltering. When I first started in the industry in 94, first got in the handicapping business, baseball was on strike that year. August, I started August of 94, and I think that's when the baseball strike started, when Montreal was kicking butt back then. Tim Raines another great ball player, Tim Raines.
That series in 94 was supposed to be the Expos versus the Yankees.
Yes, you remember that. And also the Knicks lost to Houston that year as well. And that was the infamous O.J. Simpson.
Simpson, yep. Mm-hmm.
I saw that. I was in California at the time. I saw the chase. I saw the Bronco go by. We were watching the Houston Knicks game on a little television at a Little League game in a ravine off of the highway. So they're like, the Bronco's coming. The Bronco's coming. So we all ran up. They stopped the game, and we just watched it drive by.
Wow.
They actually waved. I might even said, go, Juice. I don't know. But that was a long time ago, and that was different back in the day.
No doubt.
But you are adjusting well down there, Corey. You're really enjoying the fresh air, and that's what I like about Pennsylvania versus New York City.
No doubt, it's a big part of it. Like I said, the fresh air is a must. The easier living, you know what I'm saying, and it's a little bit more affordable to live too. You know what I mean? You're not breaking your hump to be in New York and the hustle and bustle that goes along with that, but it doesn't really reward you the way it used to in our parents' day.
No, most people are happy down there. They're relaxed.
Yeah.
Same here. Most kids, we have a lot of angry New Yorkers. We're very close to New York, obviously. A lot of them, including myself, so I can't throw stones. This is a nicer place for now. Yep. And eventually this place will be nothing but industry around here now. All the farmland, they're destroying it. They're building Amazon. We have UPS, huge facilities. But anyway, I'm glad that you're happy. I'm glad you're enjoying the move down south. Let's bring Nick in here real quick before you got to go. Corey, I know you're crunched for time. So just tell me, I got to get on out of here, Dan, and you just do your thing. Corey likes it. Nick, you don't like the playing games. Why don't you like the playing games, Nick?
One, I think I call it the LeBron James apology clause because they want LeBron James in the playoffs. If you look at the way the situation was, LeBron sat out the last, 3 games 4 games, and he could have played. He keeps saying, I had a knee injury. I don't believe him. I think he just wanted the season to be over with, and he wanted Frank Vogel to be fired. Corey, what are your thoughts on that?
I think I'm still in the GOAT conversation for me. Not really going to criticize him too much for the way this season played out. In his 19th year, he still was like the second leading scorer. Like,
Correct.
You don't really see somebody who has their first year as a leading scorer and their second year as a leading scorer like 15 years apart. You know what I'm saying? Which is pretty crazy, and the tip of the hat to him. But bad job putting Russell Westbrook on that team this year. One thing about LeBron James, he can make a claim to be the greatest basketball player ever, but his general manager skills are terrible. He put together terrible teams. He wasn't allowed to put together a team in Miami. That's why he left. But he put together a team in Cleveland. They won a championship. Don't get me wrong. But then that team fell apart. And he put together a team in Los Angeles. They won a championship. And now that team is falling apart. So coming into this season, one of my bigger bets in the NBA was the Lakers under. I mean, I hammered the Lakers under. It was 55.5. They won 33 games. The under cash at the All-Star break.
You were smoking lovely in December. You already knew that bet won already by then, by January.
Yeah, exactly. That was no problem when you saw that team on the court. But that's who Westbrook is. He's inflated stats, but a terrible basketball player when it comes to the team game.
I mean, that's why they call him Westbrook, right?
Yeah, and you can't criticize him either because he gets mad at you.
I mean, his press conferences are classics. You have to admit in that regard.
Horrible to the media for years. I have no love for Russell Westbrook.
Me neither. The other team I wanted to ask you about, because people are talking about it, Embiid won the scoring title, James Harden in Philadelphia. Do you see any like sneaky betting going on with Philadelphia? Are people betting the 76ers at all?
I'm not. I actually have an article coming out today on NBC Sports Edge where I'm fading the Sixers in the first round. I think the Toronto Raptors are going to eliminate the Philadelphia 76ers. So that's what I'm looking at. I mean, Toronto, last 12 times they've played, last 11 games against Philadelphia, 7-4 straight up and on the money and ATS. As a matter of fact, they went 3-1 versus the 76ers this year. They just played in Toronto the other night. And the Philadelphia cannot handle them. It's a team that has their number. I love Embiid. I think he's a great player. But I'm a big Doc Rivers guy too, even though I think he could end up being the Lakers' next head coach.
No.
With that being said, I do.
I had that vision too. Again, I'm not an NBA guy like you two, but I had that vision. You know, Harden coming over seemed to motivate the Sixers from what I saw. I don't know, but it's chemistry. You know, chemistry is everything. You mentioned that with Westbrook. That's why I liked old basketball when they stuck together and they got along, even when they didn't always get along. They left their indifference. So that means certain things happen a lot. That's why I loved back in the 80s. And I really stopped loving basketball when Kobe retired. I was like, watch Kobe. Even towards the end, when Kobe would play, I would watch him. And, you know, I always remember the bad boys, Lambeer and Isaiah and Rodman with Detroit, Boston and Magic and Bird. Those, you know, just
legendary.
Yep. You know, Darryl Dawkins, a good friend over the years. You know, when I always asked him, how would somebody like LeBron fare these days? He goes, he used to call me. What was the name? He had a couple of names for me. But anyway, I'll leave that for another show. He said they would think twice before they came on me, my man. That elbow, they wouldn't do that floppy stuff. And now he's flopping. Daryl's been gone for about 7 years. And now with the flopping is even more dramatic than ever before.
They have a rule for it now. You technically can't flop. They're supposed to call it if you flop on purpose.
Horrible one a couple of weeks ago with Lance Stevenson, where he actually got Austin Rivers kicked out of a game. Austin Rivers was ejected for an elbow that Stevenson reacted to that never touched him. So I can definitely agree with that.
That was one of the best acting jobs I've ever seen on an NBA court.
I love Lance Stevenson. Shout out to Coney Island. Lance Stevenson.
Yeah, too much of that nonsense. You know, I like what was. Take it like a man. Even in football, I can understand the safety, you know, but no, you can't go near the quarterback. You know, guys like Ronnie Lott, and they wouldn't even be effective these days like they used to be. Too much offensive protection. Defensive players get hurt too. And sometimes by watching what I got to do, you're leaving yourself to get hurt because you're so cautious about how you're going to make that impact. If I hit him this way, sometimes the hardest hits are less painful than the ones that you always say, wait a second, he barely got touched him. Why is he laying there still? Well, these guys are 350 pounds these days, too. So back in the day, a good-sized lineman was 275. Now they're 350 doing a 4.540.
And they can hurt somebody like that. Looking forward to this upcoming NFL draft, too.
Maybe safer, but it's like a weapon. You put 325 pounds moving 4.5 with a weapon, it's going to cause some damage. But again, I'll be 60 years old, so I like what was.
I feel you.
I'd like to go back to the 80s a little bit with technology. Some of it, that medicine is fantastic, what they've done with that.
Hey, Danny, Corey's got to run. He's got to
go. Okay, Corey, listen, my man. So, thank you as always. We met years ago. I watched you do your work with Craig Carton and Michelle. Great job there.
Thank you, Danny. Definitely. Let's talk again before the season comes to an end, and let's get ready for by the time we talk again, I'll be ready to give you some good MLB stuff.
Always welcome. Anytime you got something to say, just give me a text and we'll go from there. Have a great day, Corey Parson. Give him a follow. His information's right there. Got to give him some love. He's the best. Thanks, Corey.
Hey, thanks a lot, Danny. Glad to have you back. All right, Nick.
See ya.
Thanks for spending time, Corey. Well, there you go, Nick. You've been a big fan of Corey's for a long time. I told you the guy, he did shows with me in New York City. Remember our show I did on Saturday nights? The Me and the Missus. It was a fun show, but we had some sports guests. Corey was on the show probably 7 or 8 different times, maybe 10.
I saw pictures of you. I think it was on Facebook with him.
I'm going to dig it up. You know what? My phone, I talked about that. I lost a lot of good pictures. I probably have one somewhere.
But there was some interesting factors. I wish we ran out of time. I was going to ask Corey about the Nets. I mean, I know he said he was favoring the Nets on that line, but Kyrie Irving has been a factor all season. I know they finally changed the rule in New York. Now Eric Adams, the mayor of New York, has now got COVID. Whole different irony, in my opinion. But is that line going to be affected, considering that he was not playing a bunch all year?
Well, it's up to 8.5. Corey said I had 8 -8 when I took down some notes here. You know what? I'm not a fan of what's going on in the city. The hypocrisy in the city. The kids still, forced to wear masks. I think. I don't know, but. A lot of things we don't like, but what do? You roll with them. It's out of your control. To get aggravated is something that's out of your control. And, I always tell people, keep politics out of shit. Just do your thing. Let everybody have their own opinion. And that's the beauty of living in this country. We can feel the way we want. At least that's the way it's supposed to be. But that's not my area. I'm not a politician, never dabbled in politics, but I've always loved sports, and I'm so glad that baseball is back. It was fun. Like I said earlier, I know we're going to wind the show down. We'll be back Friday at 4:00 again. Again, the show is pre-recorded early in the day. A lot of times the lineups ain't even out early, but I have a little hunch. Look at the Angels a little bit tonight. They lost 3 out of 4 at home playing Houston. Houston looked good, you got to lay a little bit, maybe -140. But again, once we go live, and I wish because I'll have up-to-the-minute information where my analysis could be more accurate. One good thing we don't have to worry about is COVID stopping anything anymore, Nick. I remember so many times I'd be on an early show and come tip-off or for whatever, kickoff, they ain't playing or pushed off, NFL included.
Right, and people criticize the NBA because they went in a bubble, and basically the Lakers technically won a title, even though no team was moving out of the bubble, which I think they should put a giant asterisk next to that.
I think so.
But I'm finally glad we're out of it. I'm not happy, though, that guys technically like Aaron Judge are getting away with the rules. And
you know what? They bend the rules accordingly, and that's always been the way. Nick, you're a young guy, half my age. Rules they're made to be broken, but it's the people that break them seem to be the most hypocritical out of them all. But again, I try not to focus. I don't like a lot of things, what's going on in the world, period. But this show's not about that.
I'll ask you a different question then. The Aaron Judge extension that he turned down, 7 years, $213 million, total $230 million.
What was the guarantee on that?
It's all MLB contracts are fully guaranteed.
Okay. Foolish to turn that down because he's Listen, obviously he did great in his rookie year. I personally don't think anybody's worth that type of money myself. That's just my opinion. You can have arguments for that. Owners versus players. We discussed that a little bit.
We had a whole lockout on it.
Yeah, I know. It cost us a week and some change on baseball, but again, it's you just go with it. I just wanted to see more fan friendly, where they can afford to take their kids there, and it's just shame. And we talked about last week on the preview show. Again, catch a replay of that if you missed it. Friday, we talked about the USFL. I don't know if Randy can make it Friday. I want him to talk about the USFL because that starts Saturday with the NBA playoffs after the play-ins are done.
Good timing. Yeah.
Oh, it is. I'm going to see you work on that again because of different guests living in different places. That's why we pre-record the show so we can kind of work around the schedule.
It's puzzle piecing, fitting the right pieces in. Yeah.
And again, the show will be ready 4:00. Some of the content obviously might not be as accurate from the time we pre-record to the time you actually catch it, and always catch replays again. You can see the show anywhere, right? Twitter, Facebook. Preferably empty the bench. Guys, subscribe. Please do us a favor. We're trying to build up a new network, working on some nice sponsors. Of course, we have knack bags for the most of the shows, right, Nick? And It's a good multi-purpose bag. Always comes in handy. Go to the ball game with it. Pack it with whatever. It holds just about anything. A lot of compartments. So that's a good little device to have. So the network's growing slowly, but it's a work in progress. Like they say, Rome wasn't built in a day, was it, Nick? But it's different. You have different shows and stuff. I'm going to have so many different guests. And if my phone didn't crash on me and I lost a lot of data because stupid me didn't back it up with that Google friend, it's up there somewhere. I got to, whatever he's called, cloud guy.
Oh, you're talking about iCloud.
Whatever it is, I had it somewhere up there. And it's funny because I'm like, what? Excuse me. Why can't I get my pictures retrieved? But some of them are popping up on my phone. Like, how did this show up on this? And it's like coming out of nowhere, like they're dropping them slowly at me but anyway, I lost a lot of good contacts. It's another story. We do have.
You found a bunch. You found a bunch of them, though. You're starting to.
Well, I found them on different devices that I moved over. So I guess we wrap this thing up, Nicholas, pretty much, right? Get on out of here.
Yeah, I think
some stuff in my tooth too. That's been, if you see me like moving around, because something just flew out of my teeth. So I guess I didn't floss right.
But good show, good first guest. I like Corey. Corey is a good guy in a lot of ways. I actually give him a lot of credit for that show with Carden and Friends because I think he literally drove that show.
On a side note too, the sidekick Michelle, she was a bartender in Hoboken at the time. I had an office upstairs, First and River Street in Hoboken. She worked as a bartender at Texas, Arizona, and she was going to school. She wanted to be a journalist. She wanted to be in the business, and I didn't see her for years until I walked in to the Fantasy Network in Manhattan, and I said, she looks very familiar. I said, nah, it can't be. And sure enough, it was her. And that's the same day I met Corey. I met Craig, and we sat down. Again, we discussed that last week. But, yeah, it was funny. She told me she's going to follow that career, and she was into it. She knew everything. And I was like, good for you, girl. It's good to see a girl or hear a girl knowledgeable. And there she did. She did it. And then after the show kind of fell apart for various reasons, didn't fall apart, had to depart because of Craig's situation. If not, it was a good show. He's better off where he's at, though, obviously, back in mainstream. But they were good together, the three of them. Corey, always amazing on my shows. He's been on my show in California, on Fox Sports, everywhere. So I enjoy having Corey. He's a book of knowledge. And, again, he knows it all.
Corey's got a track record. He's been on the SiriusXM Fantasy channel. He's been on he worked for SI, Sports Illustrated.
Yes, he did. Yes.
So if you're looking for a track record, he's got it.
And he's from New York, the mayor of New York, looking to retag himself down in South Carolina, which eventually he will. Baby steps, Corey, baby steps. I told you off camera, start in the postal office, work your way up, get people to like you. Next thing you know, they'll be calling you the mayor. But always a good guest. I look forward, and I thank him again because, again, he's got stuff going on, A lot of people do, so guests are going to be here. You just got to wait. I'd love to have Randy on Friday. Can't promise it. But again, I think more people will be interested in the NBA playoffs. So try to find a basketball guest for Friday. If not, we'll find somebody. Baseball again. Here we are. We have Phillies, Mets. Phillies hosting the Mets. Yanks, Toronto. Another series was the Padres and Giants. Small play mentally. It's not 100%, but look at the Angels tonight. Last I checked, it was minus 140. Might see some runs in the Bronx tonight. Both lineups are capable. In Yankee Stadium, that porch is very short out there. I think Rizzo was off to a nice start with the Yankees.
2 home runs. And actually, there was an Elias record broken where Rizzo and Stanton both homered in both back-to-back games. It was the first time it was ever done.
Stanton off to a decent start. Now, don't sleep on Stanton because, when he's healthy, this guy is a beast. Look what he did down in Miami. He tore that place apart. I'm a fan of his more than Judge, to be honest with you.
There's another team I would watch also with Tatis Jr. being out with the Padres.
Yeah, I told you go against them off record. I said, I kind of liked Arizona, and then you were reminding me how bad they were.
Well, I meant for the total in general because I think it was 88 and a half.
Okay, for the run total. I thought you're going into that series. Although the Padres won the next 3 after that. Yeah, they did, right? They won 3 and 4.
But I would say, anyone who took the over on the 88 and a half, I would be a little concerned with Tatis being out
for a bit now, and he's a hell of a ball player himself. A lot of good talent. Fernando, his daddy, was a good ball player too.
Yes, very. I think he almost was a Hall of Fame player, if I'm not mistaken.
Cardinals and Mets is where he did his best work. I watched him. Was he in the last before Shea Stadium closed down? I was there a couple of weekends before the last game, and I think he played for the Mets in that. So he was with the Mets. When did Shea end? In 08, Nick? 08?
It was like 07, 08, somewhere around there.
08, I think 09 is when City Park started. Citizens Park in Philadelphia has been that's been around quite a while already. It seemed like yesterday. That park's about 20-something years old already, almost.
Because I think if I'm not mistaken, both New York parks were 09, right? If I'm not mistaken, when they both opened.
I was in Yankee Stadium only one time, the new Yankee Stadium. We sat in the outfield and I don't know, it was in the back. I didn't like what they did with it, that was a while ago as well. I wasn't I remember old Yankee Stadium. And again, I can go on and on about what was versus what is, but it's can't take back. You just remember. And for me, that's how I hold on. I watch a lot of old highlight films. I got my old baseball cards that I look at once in a while. I just reflect. That's why when I see World Series from the 70s, on those MLB channel, classic.
Oh, MLB Network. Yeah.
Classic channel, whatever they show, the classic matchup. Cincinnati was a beast when I was a kid. Oakland A's were great back in the early 70s, the swinging A's. But, of course, the Dodgers are the heavy favorites, even though they're 2-2. Obviously, it's only 2 games, 4 games, obviously.
I'm surprised that you're taking the under on the 98.
I said it went 95, 96, but I just have a feeling. First of all, I said it's hard to win back-to-back 100-game seasons. They won 106.
I agree with you, but I think getting Freddie Freeman, they have an embarrassment of offense.
How's his production so far in the first 4 games?
I can pull that up while
I haven't heard his name much in the series. Did he do anything? Is he 0 for him?
I'm checking.
And Colorado, he should have had a home run already.
Yeah, that I don't get.
I would have had one if I was with them.
So far, no home runs, 2 hits and 12 at bats.
Okay.
No RBIs yet.
There you go. Let's see what happens. He's going to need maybe a trip to LA to fit in. Maybe he gets back home. He'll swing the bat. Where they're at somewhere tomorrow. I forgot. I was more concerned about today's games. I know we wanted to preview a little bit, but as we get deeper into the season, we'll have a lot more data. Production, you get more knowledgeable and fans get more engaged. A lot of people were disappointed with the strike, and baseball doesn't need anything else to deter the fan from coming out. Talking about, you asked me how I feel about the replay, Nick, being overturned and the explanation. It's more time consuming. The baseball wants to be sped up. That ain't a way to fasten it.
You first have to stop, then you got to turn the mic on, then you got to tell everybody. It's a whole thing. And actually, I just looked it up. The Dodgers are going to be in Minnesota playing the Twins.
Okay. All right.
So that's the next series for them.
Yeah, I know Milwaukee is headed to Baltimore, right? Baltimore is bad. I mean,
Baltimore's number, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was like
64,
it was like
64,
62 or 64 or
62
something.
and a half, 62 and a half, maybe. It was
And,
definitely under 65.
and I
Uh,
said take the under.
I think Pittsburgh was 67. So Pittsburgh was pretty low too.
They're both basement teams. They don't spend any money.
You know what? Pittsburgh was good back in the day when they had Stargell, Oliver, Rennie Stennett. Uh, they had a good club back in the day. Bill Robinson, who used to be the first base coach for the Mets. So they were good at one time. They put Dave Parker was a beast with them. That's right. We are family, I think they called themselves. That's right. But anyway, Nick, I'm sure you got some things to do, and I got things to do, and I got kids to deal with and life in general. So you join us again Friday, everybody, and thanks for, and again, please subscribe and follow us on Twitter and appreciate the love and any ideas for the show, send them to Nick. He's on Twitter. Follow us and send some thoughts, hopefully positive stuff, whatever, everybody's entitled. Do you like it? You don't like it? Can't please the world. There's a song about that. You can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself. And that's what it comes down to. So, again, Nick, thanks for bringing in Corey, and you're amazing. I can never do this. No, it's pretty simple, they say, but I would have blocked out. I would have lost volume. I would have knocked the microphone. So thanks for bringing me into the network.
It's funny you brought that up because on another show you do on the network, Keeping It Real, we did that on the first episode.
That wasn't your fault, though.
No. I'm not blaming anybody. That was just funny.
That was my fault because I didn't know on the microphone if you touch the top of it, it goes dark. My son didn't tell me that because I borrowed his microphone because the one I had wasn't compatible with the thing because I had the plug-in one. I forgot what that's called, the one that you used. But yeah, that was a learning curve as well. But
I'm looking forward to this show though. Now that we're in the episode 1 phase and now we're in the counting phase, there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, we're going to try to bring as many different guests, but we'll have Corey back and some of the guests will be reoccurring, but like to keep it fresh. And again, everybody out there that's spending time with us today or on the replay, thanks, and spread a little love. And I guess till Friday, we'll see you then on Friday. Have a good week. And until the next time, have a lucky day.
We'll see you next time.